Welcome to Postpartum.
Okay, I have a story for Postpartum.
Go.
So before we had kids, we got Sevi, and Eden plays volleyball with this group of people, just kind of casually. And anyway, this one guy is like a germaphobe and super rich, and I was just to give you a picture. And we sat down with him, and I was talking about my dog, and he's like, "Yeah, I will never get a dog because did you know that like 99% of people with dogs have these bugs in their eyes because of their dogs?" Yeah. I was taken back at first. I was like, bugs in their eyes? He's like, yeah, they're so small you can't see them, but you get bugs in your eyes. And I was like, all right, I guess my kids are gonna have bugs in their eyes. If that's the worst thing, like invisible bugs that don't do anything, I'm cool with it. It's fine.
I believe that everybody actually has those bugs all over their body. Yeah, like
you probably eat so many spiders every year and don't eat like cockroaches, and but you're worried about the microscopic bugs in your eyes that dogs give you. Okay,
that's so funny. I like the rich element.
Yeah,
that was wrong.
What that has to do with it.
You had to get the right picture of this guy. He like drives fancy cars, and he's like,
I was like waiting for that to tie in. I was like,
no, it doesn't tie in. You just didn't like my dog.
Yeah,
they're not expensive enough.
So when I think of rich people, a lot of times I think of if anybody has seen the Mormon Pride and Prejudice version, Mormon version of Pride and Prejudice. Have you guys seen that version?
No.
Oh. Anyway, it's just Mr. Darcy and how he's like, I don't know if in the original he's rich. I can't remember.
Yes.
I've seen it, but I couldn't remember. Okay, yeah. So I just always imagine him. You guys, it doesn't even matter. You haven't seen it. It's totally cheesy. And it like, yeah, I know. That's okay.
But this guy is kind of like Mr. Darcy. He would
really like condescending and doesn't really filter.
Can't you imagine Mr. Darcy saying, "I would never get a dog because I don't want bugs in my eyes"? Like, yeah, that's a very good comparison to tie it back in. It still works, Brittany. It still works.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
But, so I was gonna say because you asked me or you mentioned cats in the episode,
I was gonna ask about that now.
And I didn't really mention anything about cats, and I think probably one of the reasons why they're not talked about as much is because they don't care as much. They really cats do their own thing, man, and as long as kids aren't getting in the way of that, then they're probably okay. But I think Gus is actually not necessarily liked having the baby around, but he really favors the baby stuff. He loves to get into the bottom basket of our Speaking of pets, he loves to get in the bottom basket of our stroller. He loves to lay on the nursing chair and sleep there. Once we set up the crib, he was kind of going underneath the crib and laying there. He hasn't tried to get in the crib, but he did get into the bassinet when we first had it. He's just like any of these new comfy spots he has gotten into. So, but other than that, he hasn't really been bothered, I think, by having the baby. One thing that I think is interesting, though, is I believe Jamie is more interested in watching Gus sit there and do nothing than the dogs. Like the dogs will be wrestling, or maybe he's just used to it because they do it all the time, but they'll be wrestling and stuff, and Gus will just be sitting in his little tail, just like, wisping, and Jamie will just stare intently at Gus and try to reach out for him and stuff.
Maybe
and
easier to focus on.
Maybe, because he's moving, but he's not going anywhere. He's not doing very much. But yeah, he'll reach out for him and he'll try to pet Gus way more than he does the dogs. So it's interesting. I don't know why.
Yeah. Earlier when I was looking at some of the content that I shared, I asked Phil, because they grew up with a lot of cats, so I asked him if his family was more unified and came together over those pets, and he was like, I don't know what I said. I'd actually maybe say so, yeah, because on the Family Marco Polo thread, a pretty good percentage is of pictures of their cats or talking about their cats. So, yeah, I mean, granted, if you took every single polo and like added them up, it would be a low percentage, but of the topics, it's
enough.
Yeah, it's enough that it's like it's not uncommon to have somebody showing us their cat instead of themselves while they're talking, and then asking about each other's cats, which I'm not offended by this, but I don't think that people get on and be like, "How's Leah?" Like that usually doesn't happen. So
do you have a dog? Funny. Do you have a dog because of you? Then would you have a cat if it were just up to him?
We would have no pet.
No pets at all?
If it was just up to him, no, he would want a cat.
Oh, okay.
But Phil told me he wants a cat.
Yeah. But I didn't want, like, we moved here. I can't remember how long we lived in this house, like, from an apartment before. I think I was like, so I don't recall what was happening, like, in the big picture with our marriage and stuff. But I was, like, ready to speak my truth. Like, tell my truth or whatever. And I was like, all right, Phil, I'm tired of whatever. And I was like, I want a baby, or I want a dog, or I want something else. I want to go on a trip. Those are the three things. So pick your poison.
So you got a dog because your husband would never choose those other two.
So it's like, so where do we start looking for a dog? And I was like, I will start searching. So we looked at... I can't remember, Rescue Rovers, that's what it was. And we went to the not the Humane Society. No, we did go there actually as well. And then we went to the shelter because they're different here in Utah. And we went to the one in the North County one. And we almost, I don't know how close it really was. I was very interested in this dog that supposedly was a stray in the area. But we met her and she was just like this brown tornado. Like, she was so sweet, but she just would poof everywhere. And that was, I had certain criteria.
Like
of
poop?
things.
She would poop
No. Hair. Like poof. Sorry. Yeah, she would just shed so bad. Which
poop
I know.
Everywhere.
No, yeah, I know that would be terrible.
She was this brown tornado. She just poop everywhere. Like,
and she spun around.
It's like a medical problem.
We had to nix that.
I've had that dog up for adoption.
No wonder she was a stray. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's fine. And it was difficult because it was an emotional experience, like trying to not feel guilty for giving up, like, you know, not going. I don't know. It was just like, I've never done foster care and I've never had a child I wanted to adopt, so I'm not comparing it. But it's the closest thing that I can think of that it would be like. I mean, we weren't fostering animals, but it was just like, do I be true to my I can't think of the word, like my moral compass of like not leaving this dog and who's going to take care of it? Or do I go with what I think is feasible, which ultimately is what we had to try to be mature dog owners and what we would want ultimately. And I'm glad I'm saying this in the postpartum because I feel like whoever's listening to this might be a little bit more forgiving than the general public, because I know there's bleeding heart whatevers that would be like, no, you take in whoever you take, you know, you make the sacrifice maybe, but I wasn't in that place. Just like when you have to decide about if you're going to be a parent in any capacity, right? And so we didn't because no shedding was part of my thing. And Leah does shed sometimes. I don't even know if I can call it shedding. Sometimes there's hair. That's it, you know. But we stumbled upon her more than anything. Like, we were just found her as a post on a Facebook group, but it was not, she was just like from a backyard breeder. She wasn't a backyard breeder, but she was just somebody whose dog mated with another dog. And then she was like, we can't have 16 dogs. So. Yeah.
I'm with you on that though. And I growing up was a cat person. I had several cats. I never had a dog. My friends had dogs and I was not a fan of them. They loved their dogs so much and they're just like, oh, they're part of our family. Or a friend of mine, their dog got hit by a car and their parents spent like $20,000 of medical bills on it and stuff. And I'm like, that's insane.
I have a hard time imagining that.
Like, oh my gosh, I could just never understand it. And then, you know, my husband grew up with dogs and he really wanted a dog, and but I had very specific criteria too. I was like, I don't want to just go pick up, and especially when you look at the rescue, it's so hard because it's you get the same kind of dogs. They're
like a candy bag.
Yeah, they're like
You get the same kind of dogs, but really you don't know.
But you have no
Right.
idea what their
it's like a
temperament's going to be
mixed bag.
like. And my husband's grandma adopted a dog several years ago, and she was just insane and would lick everything and pee everywhere, and like, you know, came from an abusive home, and so like you really have no idea what you're going to get. And we adopted Gus, and we've had some negative experiences with him because of the background that he had or whatever, and it took us a couple of years for him to really be comfortable with being pet and being picked up. He still doesn't like being picked up, but you know, he's a cat, so what do you expect? But I was like, if we're gonna go into this like commitment, this 10-year commitment or whatever it is, and if you rescue an older dog, it's not that long, but if I'm going to care for this thing, I wanted to meet some criteria for our family that I feel is best. And a golden retriever was always number one on my list. It's super friendly, family dog, just like lovable. And Crouton is all of that. She's amazing. And so we waited a very long time to get a dog. We had to move into this house, but even when we moved into this house, it was like, it's going to be expensive to buy her from a breeder. And so we had to kind of wait and save. And I had stumbled upon, I think it was Facebook as well, or KSL maybe, that it was a woman who had kids, and she had a daughter with autism or Down syndrome. I can't remember. Anyway, she wanted to teach her kids about the cycle of life. So they had a golden retriever puppy that when she was 2 years old or 1 year old, they bred her once. And she's like, I'm just going to do this once. So I want my kids to experience this. And then we're going to have her fixed. And so she was not charging as much as a normal breeder was. So that was a plus for me. And we were able to afford Crouton. And I'm so glad that I did. And I don't have anything against rescuing. Technically, I guess we rescued Evie because we got her from somebody when she was a year old. And all of my pets in the previous years of my life, we have rescued. But I feel like, you know, if you're going to make that commitment and you're not completely open to whatever you get, it's okay to look at safe breeding situations. And that's like a hot topic is, you know, when people try to be breeders and they're not, and they mistreat their animals and everything. And I absolutely 100% am against that. And just, you know, be careful with who you buy from, where you promote that business. But I think it's perfectly acceptable that we have breeds of dogs for a reason. And if you're going to bring that into your family, you can use that judgment and be happy with it. And I am very happy, and I love my dogs. I love both my dogs very, very much. And I can tell you that if we just picked up a dog from the pound or whatever, I may not feel this same way, because there are those negative things that come up that, you know, it's just hard to live with. And you don't want to make your life harder and make it harder for the dog, you know?
You have to consider the fact that if this isn't a viable experience for your kids, they have to come before the dog. So,
Right. Yes.
You know, I wanted to put as many categories in my favor to have a really good, conducive relationship between my dog and my child, to where they're going to be able to grow up and be symbiotic. I don't know another word, but coexist together happily. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, was not picking up a dog from the pound. That just wasn't. Yeah. I think it's great for people who are very well trained with rescue animals and do that for a living, or not a living, but do that as a hobby. Like, they enjoy that. I think it's great for.
Or if they have the time.
Yeah, there are awesome scenarios for that, and my scenario was not. It was not going to be good. So that's why we did not rescue. I have no qualms about it. I don't feel bad. I tell people honestly, but we did a lot of research about our breeder. We went and picked Sevy up, but we read a lot of reviews about people saying that her home is very clean. The dogs are very well taken care of. They had bows in their hair, and They have free access to the house, you know, and that's what we saw too. We had a lot of conversations with our breeder, and she sent pictures and videos, and you should do your research. Don't go to some shady breeder who's like, yeah, we get 16 litters a week and make a lot of money. Like, don't do that. Those dogs are being mistreated. And that's going to transfer to the temperament of the dog in the long run. So,
and if you really don't like those, then become an advocate for shutting those down. Or something, you know, like I have no idea what that would involve. I mean, maybe you can like Carol Baskin Sands, maybe killing anybody in that situation. But I definitely agree, and I think it kind of connects back to something we were saying earlier. I can't remember if it was both in this and the episode, but at least in the episode that the animals have feelings and they're part of the family, at least in my life. Like Phil and I were talking about people's opinions of animals, or rather what their roles and expectations are. And I've known people, I currently know people who say, these are my rules for my animal and I don't want to disrespect them. So of course, you know, I follow that. Like my sister doesn't allow her dog on the furniture. We allow our dog all over the furniture, in our bed, on our face, you know, like those. And maybe that's bad. Maybe that's going to create problems for her to respect other boundaries. I don't know. But I know that in our home is what we chose. And so for us, that fulfills us emotionally. And Phyllis said so many times, all I ever wanted was a lap dog, which I'm like, well, you didn't really let me in on that secret of all I ever wanted. But I'm glad you like her. So you know, and we've said, and this, I know some people isn't a popular opinion as well, but we're like, what good is a dog if you can't like cuddle and like hold and have it with you or whatever you want, you know? And I respect people that don't want them in the bed or the shedding or whatever. But as far as like people that say they're only supposed to be outside, well, if they're not a sheepdog, then why are they only outside?
Yeah, I have a friend who's like that. Like they want a dog for the benefits of having a dog, I think, for the family. But he's like, but it's never coming in the house. I'm like, well, are you going to go outside for hours a day to spend time? Or is your dog just going to be alone until you're like, okay, let's go feed the dog and then go back inside? Like, then just get a goat or something, you know? Like something that's just going to
cool
be outside.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think it's fair. There have been houses where there was a house of not a direct family member, but a family member's family member that we went to, and they're not dog people, and they did not have a good experience, and so and I didn't know this, but the next time we brought Sevi with us, it was like a Christmas party, and they said, okay, we'll lock her in the kennel. She's not allowed. We'll lock her in the kennel the whole time. And I said, okay, we'll take her home, and then we won't spend because I want to spend my holidays with my dogs. I'm not going to have. I know that may sound silly, but again, this is my dog child. I'm not going to spend Christmas with my dog locked in a crate or by herself at home.
Plus, it's about what the relationship that you want in your life. Yep. And if that's not fulfilling to you, just like everyone has that choice.
Yep, and that's totally fair. I think it's totally fair for them to say, we don't want dogs roaming around our house free. It's totally fair. And just like with my kids, if we can't respect the rules of the house, we don't go to the house. Right. That's just the bottom line, you know? So if there are minor things, I've been to their house for a couple things really quick, but I can't respect the rule that my dog's locked in the crate for major holidays. And so we won't go to their house for major holidays or for Sundays or for things like that, because I can't respect that rule. And that's that should be the bottom line with your dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. I think that's a really good note to end on. If you guys don't have any other thoughts, I don't want to cut you off. But okay, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you guys for being here today. This was a really good episode.
Yeah,
it was good.